a certified financial planner and also a certified divorce financial analyst, my biggest focus of my practice is working with women. And it naturally came to me when I was helping women through domestic violence nonprofit organization, and then we help women to become financial independent after divorce. So focusing on women give me an ability not only to connect to the surrounding community, but also help those who are in great need or in transition to walk them through the process. And I've done it many times. We see a result of it, and I'm glad to share some information that might be relevant to you at any point of time. So even though there might be some men in the room, and I respect that, we will focus on mostly how different it is for women to retire, what's their challenges and also opportunities. But each of you are very unique. So I'm going to reference research that generalize women versus men, but women compared to each other also have very different goals and objectives. So we'll definitely be very happy to answer any of your questions at the end. And we're happy to read through the chat notes later on and make sure that why you came here is you got some answers. Without further ado, we'll start with our workshop. And as you already know, I have my own practice at Clearbridge Financial, and today I will wear two hats. I am a volunteer, but I also own my own practice as a planner. So a couple of items on our agenda today. Uh, Women control significant and increase in investable assets. So we will talk about this wealth. Where is this wealth coming from? A lot of previously it was usually the women would stay home, and their wealth will be accumulated mostly through joint efforts with her husband. But more and more women are working, so a lot of women control wealth, and they're also living longer. So we will see how women will need to make decisions, and they are on their own. They need to rely on their own resources to make those decisions. Women at work will be primary financial decision makers because they live longer. If they live longer, a lot of times what will happen is that after husband, God forbid, pass away, you will have to make a decision on your own. If you go through divorce, there will be a time when you need to make a decision on your own. So we'll discuss pros and cons of approaching these decisions and how to make them successfully. The importance of retirement plan for women. A lot of times women are in the sandwich generation where they take care of children, they also take care of their parents. As a result, they might take some time from work and not make the top dollars. So how do we mitigate that risk? How do we prepare for retirement, knowing that we may not be making as much? Maybe we'll take in time off work, or potentially we even live longer that might stretch our retirement savings. And then we'll discuss checklists for retirement, your preparedness, and I also will have some follow-up documentation I can offer that you can look and through your individually and see if there is any uh, gaps you need to close after this. So I hope after this presentation you'll walk away with a couple of items to think about, and you can talk to your family members, to your husband, or to a financial planner about it. Women-controlled wealth forecasted to double this decade. And you can see the statistics are very, very significantly different between women and men. So you can see that money in motion, that in the middle, the shaded area was purple. Why we see that increase in wealth and control? First of all, what I've just mentioned is women in general being working by far more hours than men. Might not necessarily be making the same pay, because actually statistically men makes by 10% more than women, even on the same job. The gap is closing thanks to diversity and inclusion. But nevertheless, however, in the last 10 years, that's been a huge trend developing where women actually stay longer at work. They recognize they've been promoted, and they started to think about retirement even sooner than men. And as a result, there was, and there are a lot of them also, because they really like idea of safety and security, they're not spending the money. So they end up carrying a lot of wealth and weight of a lot of decisions on them how to manage that wealth. So that's a great news. The great news that more women anticipate to manage more wealth. And it's happening right now and will increase as we speak the next decade or two. Most older women are primary financial decision makers. Well, let's take a look at the statistics. You can see here, you can see percentage of widows, women, and so the married people, so men, you can see that there is more men that are married at age of 65 plus than women. And what's very interesting is that there is a very similarly divorced, they're probably about the same percentage, but you can see a huge, drastic difference without men 10% and without women. What does it tell us? It tells us that when a spouse passes away, it is higher chance that the woman might not remarry for a number of reasons. Maybe for her comfort, maybe she is used to those, household life that she's been carrying on, and she doesn't feel necessarily maybe deficiency. And as a result, and even in my practice, I notice I have a lot of women that are widowed and they are not getting married. They have their circle of friends, they have their kids, their life is very fulfilled. So they are not rushed into getting married again. And if they do, great, but many of them don't have interest. So what does it tell us? It means that at some point of time, you have to, as the widow, need to make certain financial decisions that might affect your life a long time. And where do you go for that advice? Do you go to your family member? Do you go to somebody who knows financials? Who do you rely on for those decision making? That's critically important because the quality of advice you receive might be very different depending who you talk to. I give you one example. I have a client who is going through a divorce, and the family has a significant amount of money in individual stock, a company, a very well-known company, one of those magnificent seven, large company. And she received an advice from her friend saying that the stock went up so much, you need to go ahead and sell it so you can preserve the wealth. And she went to her attorney, and attorney said, no, you don't make any decisions till you talk to a financial advisor. So it happened that I was hired just 2 meetings before she had this conversation, but I was brand new to her finances. When I started looking into that, it turned out that if she would to follow that advice, she would be selling very good quality stock at one point of time and generating significant amount of gains that would A, put her in a situation that where do you reinvest the money, what do you do with that, and B, very large tax bill, which she's not prepared to pay. So this kind of advice we need to be very careful about because nobody knows your situation unless you talk to a professional, somebody really knows. You need to be very careful about this type of advice that you receive from a good friend who might have very good intention but not enough financial information. Women are diverse, and some of them may lack confidence. Confidence in the sense of it would be nice to talk to someone else before I make all the decisions. You can see here that people, we broke down women in two groups. One is very confident, that's dark purple, and a light purple, somewhat confident. And you can see that what's interesting that you can see it with divorced women lack confidence. This is where transition happens. This is where they really need to seek help from someone professional and knows your situation very well, also carries your best interest. You need to talk to someone who is really carrying your interest, doesn't have any conflict of interest. Fiduciary, preferably, right? And women who have been married have higher confidence level, almost double, right? It's double actually. So you can see that a lot of women still rely on their husbands to make decisions, but once he is not around, the confidence can drop. How do we avoid this confidence gap? One way to do is to go through a financial education. That's what you're doing today. Another way is to build a team. When you build a team, it means that you have a financial advisor, tax person, a realtor, or whoever needs to help you with your decisions around you, and a good professional who really cares. If you have these people that work together as the team, they can produce such a much better result for your family. And you get involved with these people not when you're uh, left on your own, not when something drastic happened. You get involved during the process. You're signing your tax return, you're asking your tax person to give you a summary. Very should be very well received by your tax person and should not be ignored by any financial professionals. You're equal part of the household. You need to know what you're signing. You need to know how things are. If you're not getting those answers or help, then you need to seek advice. And you need to find people with who you'll be very comfortable. So that's number one, get involved sooner. Number two is start looking into your budget to see how your financials are moving around. Look at your credit cards, look at your bank account, see how family spends. If you're married, look at all of your family statements. If you're on your own, then you take a look of those statements that it's your own, so much easier for you to generate and come up with. But you need to know what comes to the household, what leaves the household, just a general idea. Why? Because it gives you an idea. Are you in green? Are you saving? Or you are in red? And something needs to change. So getting involved in financial affairs is extremely important. Sometimes there's limitations. Sometimes husband doesn't want to know or doesn't care to share, and you need to advocate for yourself, or you need to find somebody who can help you get that information. Importance of retirement plan for a woman. Many of us naturally organizers, means we like to organize the life to make sure everybody's been taken care of, right? Either it's making a shopping list for groceries or making sure that your kids are in good schools and doing research or making sure your parents have a good long-term care. We always try to solve our family problems. And as a result, a lot of us see that there is potential danger to any decision that you're making. Women in retirement, especially in retirement, have a huge risk of running out of money compared to men for two reasons. Number one, they're usually making less, their accounts values are much lower. Three, they usually don't take as much risk. They're not competitive in taking risk, and they're never were taught about what type of risk you should be taking and what risk you should be avoiding. And the third, the account balances, because they work um, less and account balances are lower, they also have a longevity. So male women in general live longer than men. As a result, they need to have more accumulated wealth. So retirement planning means how do we create a cash flow in retirement with all the assets, with all the income that's flowing through to the household to never run out of money. That would be a retirement plan. Considering inflation, considering your spending habits, considering your longevity and your lifestyle. Once you determine that, and let's say you do it as a family with your husband, or you do it on your own, then if you have a 90% chance that you will not run out of money after you did all this homework, retirement, which is called retirement plan, then you know that now you're set to go. You can retire. If the answer is no, there are some gaps we need to cover. We need time to close these gaps. Usually, it takes at least 5 to 10 years to close the gap. Sometimes longer than that, but I encourage everybody who never looked at their retirement picture, either do it on your own or do it with the financial planner. It's very important, and especially if you don't have anybody to rely on but yourself, it would be critically important for you to know that you're self-sufficient. One client, there is few clients of mine that I've been asking, uh, what's your biggest fear? And 2 out of 10 told me the same answer. They said, I don't want to be a back lady. I don't want to, others told me, I don't want to rely on my kids for retirement. So another group told me, we don't want to depend on anyone. So everybody wants to be self-sufficient. We don't want to rely on anyone, which means we need to create a plan that will allow you to rely on yourself. And here we can see percentages of we have calculated that require retirement savings. So what's interesting here that the married people, and you can see all of these people, different categories, never married, divorced, about the same. Married people, who have calculated required retirement savings is higher, but everybody else is between 40 and 35 and 44%. So we need to understand the importance of it, and we can't do retirement planning a year before you retire. It has to be by far before that, at least 5 years, preferably 10, ideally 20. A retirement checklist for women. Plan for longer life. Create a plan for the retirement you want, means what kind of quality of life do you want to take your grandkids on once a year cruise, or do you want to go on vacation yourself a couple of times a year? Make an informed decision about Social Security, when to start your benefits. Do you go on your own benefits? Do you go on your spousal benefits? When should the benefits commence? Extremely important, because the total value of Social Security benefits that you will collect through your lifetime equals almost $1 million. But it depends when you take it and how you take it. That number can be higher or lower by a few $100,000. And if you live beyond the age of 87, then the value of that bucket is even larger. So you have to be very careful on making decisions how to and when to take Social Security benefits. A decision on long-term care strategy. It's a separate topic, which we will be doing this presentation with the speaker separately, not through the library, but Lincoln Financial has a very good long-term care program, and they will be giving us the educational seminar, talk about what's involved in long-term care. And long-term care is a big topic because most bankruptcies in retirement happen because of long-term care costs hasn't been calculated or considered. A long-term care cost is very high in this area. It runs minimum $35 an hour care, just very basic. And if you're talking about nursing care, it's a little more. But I've seen people paying 5, 6, 7, 8,000 a month for long-term care. So that needs to be considered, needs to be decided. If something, the time comes, what do we do? Understanding rising healthcare costs. Healthcare cost does not go up with inflation. If inflation is historically 3.5%, in the last couple of years a little bit more, maybe 4 to 5, healthcare cost is by far greater. I've seen healthcare cost goes up 5, 6, 7, 8, 10%. Drug cost, healthcare, hospital stays, rehabs, all of that has a much higher inflation rate than a regular inflation on goods and services. Be tax diversified. Taxation and tax planning is an extremely important topic because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So you have a higher taxes, and even if you're receiving dividends, but 40% of the dividend goes toward tax payments, it's not the right strategy. So you need to find what's the different ways to collect income and minimize your tax. Tax planning is a big part of my practice. I always look at people's tax returns to see how we can slice and dice it. Not only that, also it's very important to review your tax return for accuracy. I give you an example. I had a client, 3 clients out of last week I've seen maybe 10 clients, and 3 of them had an error on their tax return. I looked at the return and I saw this income has not been reported. How come you're missing this income on your tax return? So number of people missed of 1099. The tax people didn't ask them that question, and they reported it absolutely underreported their tax. So very important for you to review it, making sure it's accurate. Have another set of eyes to look at it. If not, your financial advisor, ask your CPA question, how come my numbers changed from last year? So be your own kind of, due diligence officer. Align your objectives with your income. I see a lot of times that people, especially women, they really don't know what kind of income their overall investments generate, what kind of risk they're taking with their investments. So what's your objective for the money? Do you want it to grow? Do you want it to generate income? Do you want it to do both? Do you want some of this money go to your heirs so you don't have that preference? Very important to evaluate, because a lot of times people leave money just going and rolling, not paying attention where they invested, how they invested, and they're not optimized to any degrees in that area. Understanding loss aversion and stay invested. It's a big topic also. It talks about how we perceive risk. But I usually tell people that the best way to look at it is through the bucket strategy. So bucket strategy is the very interesting strategy someone developed a long time ago, where they broke down your overall or our overall finances into three parts. Part number one, emergency funds, the money that you will spend within a year. Remodel, buying a car, helping kids with college, I don't know, doing some sort of, facial lift, whatever you need to spend in the first year should not be subject to any risk, should be sitting in a money market savings account. We cannot expose this money to risk. Why? Because there is a huge chance if you don't make money within a year, you can lose it. The second bucket, we call it growth in income bucket. It's a bucket where now you can take a little bit of risk, but you're not fully interested to take a lot of market risk, because you probably will spend the money within 3 to 5 years. As a result, you should not be very aggressive with your investments. Why? Because if market goes down and you need money, you need to have something more conservative to rely on, bonds. So this bucket can have a lot of bonds, a little bit of stocks. And the third bucket, I call it longevity bucket. That bucket holds majority of your stocks, retirement accounts. That bucket you will live on for the next 25 years. So these three buckets have a different investment philosophy, different risk level, and different expectations of income. So when you break your expenses and investments into these three buckets, you will see your overall financials very easy to manage and maintain. So now let's talk about life expectancy probabilities. It's a fun chart to look at because everybody wants to know, oh, let me see, what happened next. Of course, nobody knows 100%, but average life expectancy at age of 65, you can see that each year the number goes up and up. Take a look at year between 2021 and 2019. The life expectancy moving in women by 5 years. It's a very big difference. It's tremendous difference. And from 1990 to 2021, the life expectancy hasn't moved for women, but it moved between men and women. Difference is 4 years, huge difference. I guess men are getting healthier lately because now the difference between men and women life expectancy is shrinking. It's 2.6 years, and by 2090 it's going to be even smaller. Very interesting. And so we need to recognize that life expectancy can be by 4, 5, 6 years longer than spouse, and which means we need to get involved in our finances rather sooner than later, because it is a high chance that we might need to be in charge of it at some point of time. Okay, so very interesting statistics. You can see there's difference between men and women. So women are highlighted in purple and men in gray. But they also can see couples both live to specified age in light blue and a dark blue. So what the conclusion we draw from here? Well, number one, couples live longer, right? Especially men. Men usually live longer in a household with wife. Don't ask me why. I have my own ideas why, but it definitely statistically proven. For women, that not as matters, does not matter as much, but it does matter too. So couples, when people live in together, their life expectancy is slightly higher, and then women widowed, and then widowed men. I will probably skip this one. I don't know if there will have too many people in this group audience that is interested in that. Changes in lifestyle. So a daily hour spent for activity per age. Why I'm showing this? Because you can see the blue part, which is working, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And your leisure, social life, and exercise getting bigger. That's ideal, which means you need to budget more money for these activities. So this purple section for leisure, exercise, travel, the sleep part stays the same even though you're no longer working. I've never seen people sleeping more than that. They sleep about the same. Eating, drinking, care, home management about the same. But your social life, your travel, your expenses, spending money on your grandkids, proactively seeking better health. It's very important. And then we have this acronym, uh, will push us. So purpose, use time to work, help others, right? So charitable giving, good intentions, socialize with family and friends, age for health practices, expresses gratitude, probably going to church or some social events, making contribution to those in need, and focuses on strengths and abilities. So this pushes tends to help people age better. What does it tell us? It tells us that all of this will, some of it might not cost extra money, but a lot of it might require additional resources of your time, but also financial. So having a good lifestyle and have financial support in your lifestyle give you better health, better quality of life, and less worry about that you will run out of money. Very interesting topic to discuss. There is a healthy aging, uh, studies been done, and it is showing that a lot of people, they find themselves not fully retiring. They kind of start to work less, less, and less, and then eventually they retire. They go into consulting, contracting, and they start to fill up those extra hours over time with those activities. But people are always active, and those who are active actually live longer. So that's about the lifestyle. Retirement savings checkpoints. So on the left side, you can see we have a current age and we have a current household income. So based on the income, there is a checkpoints, X current household income. So how much savings you should have or do based on your age and based on your income. Let's give an example. If you are age of 50 or 55 and your income is $200,000, right? So you should be saving at least between 6 and 10% of your money. Why? Because and I always tell my clients, ideally you save starting very early age 10%, but the older you get, the more money you need to save. Assumption that the 10% growth, 10% savings rate, you need to have at least 6 times worth of your income tucked away. If you have a portfolio of 60-40, means 60% stock, 40% bonds. If you're more conservative, that number has to be higher. So you need to pay attention how much money you have saved up so far and how much money you will need. So I always tell the clients that we need to always plan for unexpected, large expense, helping kids, healthcare costs. So I usually would say, not even in this checkpoint and this X, 6X, 8X, I would say if it's a family of two and you need to take out $100,000 a year to be comfortable out of your portfolio, you need to have at least that $2 million portfolio size. If you have income from Social Security plus your savings and investments, and you're okay to live on $100,000 altogether, then you probably need about 1.3, 1.4, but it's already tight. For one person, it's okay. For two people, it's not as comfortable. So it all depends how much you need to spend, and it depends when we are talking about this. Are we talking about in your 50s and 60s when you retired early, or we're talking about in your 70s when you already been retired for 5 years? We as usually run something called retirement readiness calculations. We can see how much money you need for retirement and how much you can spend based on your assets. Social Security timing trade-offs. It's very simple that the longer you wait with your retirement decisions and collecting Social Security, the more you will collect. But please keep in mind, once you reach age of 70, which means if you're retired, full retirement age. So full retirement age is 66 for most people. But the younger people will have retirement age 66 and 6 months, 67. People who were born after 1964, most their retirement age is 67. And I think that number will be pushed higher over time. But you can see that you can collect 100% of your benefits at the age of full retirement, right? For different people, different age. But if you don't, every year you have 8% increase, and it's guaranteed. Means no matter what happened to the economy, no matter what happened to the market, you get annual increase of 8%. And then all the way till age of 70. After 70, the number doesn't go up. What does it tell us? We need to apply immediately before we turn age of 70, immediately for Social Security benefits, not to miss that time, because after 70, there is no increases, right? So if you're a widow, it's a different story. You can qualify for spousal survivor benefits. And if your spouse's Social Security benefits are higher, you can switch from your own to your spouse. There used to be a strategy called switching between your own benefits to your spouse's. It's not available anymore for anybody who was born before, if I remember correctly, in 1954. So it's not available to most of the population going forward, but certain folks that can still do the switching. But most of us cannot. So it's either your benefits or your spouse. There is no switching from one to another back and forth. All right, so it's not a good idea generally when you're working to start collecting Social Security benefits for two reasons. A lot of it will be taxed, and B, if you're collecting your Social Security benefits before full retirement age, the benefits will be reduced based on your income. So not a good idea. Start collecting when you fully, truly retire. If you work part-time, it's okay. But if you already retired, you can collect. If you haven't retired yet, I suggest to wait. It's a big topic. We usually have a separate topic on it. So that's why I kind of briefly just mentioned that disability incident increases with age. Let's talk about the risk. So disability is a risk. And I always tell my client, the risk of being disabled versus risk of being gone, dead, is by far greater, if 2 times, if not more. So disability is very much overlooked. People always get life insurance, which is great at their early age, especially when kids are small. And then people carry life insurance in their 60s and 70s. There's no good reason, which you need to reevaluate it. If there is a premium you have to pay, maybe you don't need an insurance. But disability insurance is something that protects your working capital. We as people who are in the workforce have something called human capital. Human capital means how much my working hours worth till I retire. And that number is humongous, significant. We need to learn to protect that, especially when they're our 40s, 50s. The chances of being disabled is not very high, but it's there, and we have seen it happen. So you need to extremely be careful about if you're working, you might need disability insurance, especially if your children in college, if you're still having a big mortgage payments, extremely important, get it through your employer or get it independently. Then once you retire, your need for disability will be eliminated because you no longer you have a working capital. The income will be replaced by other sources. But then you might need a long-term care benefits. You might need something that says, well, if you're not self-insured, you don't have enough money to spend on long-term care. How do you protect yourself? How do you don't spend down the money fast enough to be left with nothing? So long-term care insurance become very important. The best age to get it, it's usually between age of 55 and 65. It's a sweet spot. And then after 65, it becomes more expensive. You might have pre-existing conditions the insurance company wouldn't take. Some people say, I don't want to deal with insurance. I just want to be self-insured. That's fine, but you just need to be careful to make sure that you still have enough money for that. So disability and then long-term care, extremely important. Long-term care planning. Providers of unpaid elder care, duration of paid care 65 plus. So there's few charts we'll talk about it. So Generally, providers on unpaid elder care is the kids. We talked about the sandwich generation. If you didn't plan on that, guess what? Your kids probably will be stuck with helping you. And if they're not available, they're out of town or they live far away, or they don't want to do it, or they're too busy to do it, then you really will have big problem because nobody there to advocate for you. And in this environment, advocating for someone who is not able to advocate for themselves for the health care is extremely important. It can result in completely different outcome. I can emphasize it more than enough. So I do encourage everybody to look over their long-term care plan. Very important. A lot of other family members would do it, brothers, sisters, siblings, and then very small percentage of that unpaid care would be other relatives, but it's more like an emergency basis. Duration of care. People ask, how long should I plan for? Well, you can see here that we're looking at between 3 and 5 years. What's interesting that a lot of people, and look at women, 41% of women need care for 5 years plus. That's a big alarming sign. Means we need to have some funds available, or we need to have some sort of long-term care policy available to pay for all of these expenses. And I hear different stories. Some people say, I hate long-term care. I don't want long-term care. Others says, if not long-term care, I didn't know what my mom would do. I have a client, the mom went to long-term care and she got the policy a long time ago. We forgot about it. And then suddenly she's going into assisted living and we remembered, oh, we will run out of money in 2 years if we pay 8,000 a year. And then we remember that there is a long-term care policy being purchased a long time ago. And now her long-term care policy pays for 60% of her expenses. And her money will last a long time, plus some of it will be left for heirs. So very different outcome if she wouldn't have the care. Lifetime cost of care, 65 plus, if paid care is used. So you can see here, average 277,000. Women live longer. You can see that they need more care, so 300 at least. And men is 200,000. So it's, I think in Bay Area, this number is by far higher. And just for reference points, I see if it's a memory care or similar things like that, it's 8,000 a month easily. So, but for women, as you can see here, it's more, which means again, we need to make sure we plan for that. Planning options. So just quickly outline, obviously you can rely on your family members, on your savings, you can purchase insurance. There's all kinds of insurance planning. A lot of times my clients have that life insurance that's been sitting there, they've been paying for it and ask me, should I cancel it? My answer is no. But don't cancel it till we evaluate if we can convert your life insurance into a long-term care policy. And if we do, maybe we'll have a paid up policy that will take care of you. So don't cancel your life insurance. Let your financial advisor evaluate it. Maybe it can be converted to long-term care policy, for which you probably don't even have to pay as much if there is enough cash value. So insurance is one option. There's different type of insurances. Life insurance is one of them. Whole life insurance is another one. So there's also home equity, because we all in this area carry a lot of equity in the property. People getting home equity line of credit if they don't want to sell the property. People get in reverse mortgage more rarely. I don't like that option at all. But maybe if it's your last resort, you don't want to move out of the house, you don't have heirs, so maybe that might fit you. And life plan communities, also known as continuing care retirement communities. This option starts with independent living, and then you move on and progress toward more nursing home facilities. But that needs to be properly financed. So it's important to know. Medicaid is on one side, another option, but it's only after you exhaust all your other options. And it's also maybe not the best option because there is not too many facilities that take Medicaid. So it's there, but it's kind of your last resort if you really didn't do any planning. How do we save for it? It's really out of your own resources. You can buy a policy. Maybe there could be a decision, we call it three-leg stool decision. You have some insurance policy, you have some savings, and you also have a family member who, helping you with that and giving you the care. So there could be a combination of few things, maybe equity line of credit on your house, or maybe your investment vehicles as a search tool. So we need to start planning early because it takes time. Also, having a health savings account help a lot, and you need to plan ahead at least 5-10 years before retiring. We talked about raising healthcare costs. I'm not going to, beat the dead horse that much, but we do know that the cost of care goes up. And if you see at age of 65 versus age of 95, and big part of it is premiums and tests, and we know how expensive it can get at the hospital. So having a good insurance, a Medicare Advantage for healthier people, Medicare parts A, B, C, and D, and G would be for those who really want to pay a little bit more but have a higher coverage. All of these options available. You need to look at them annually. Don't assume, and if it's working for you, great, but always evaluate annually at the enrollment time, which is November 1st, starts at November 1st. Annual expenses per person in 2023 were $6,000 for people who are on Medicare. So it's money out there, you're spending it even though you have insurance. Monthly Medicare surcharges. This is for people who are having income above thresholds, and you can see these are the thresholds from 97 to 123 for a single filer. If your income goes over, you're paying $78 more as one person. And then as your income goes up and up and up, you can see how your monthly premium changes. There is a lot of planning around this. My clients who are receiving income from various sources come to me and say, okay, this is my income, this is what I need, these are my assets. And I sit down and start thinking about how do we create an income stream for a client without pushing them in the higher AGI limits, adjusted gross income, because these calculations all look at your AGI, adjusted gross income. And if your adjusted gross income went to 123,200, guess what? You get bumped into premiums. So I look at it all the time. I look at it to make sure that we can maneuver with the tax, with distributions, with income from dividends, from, other sources, to keep people at the lower bracket as much as possible. It is potentially possible to do, and it's feasible to plan for. And a lot of times we're able to generate much better premium cost than otherwise you would just do it all on your own. So you need to make sure that you plan that. And the way it works is if they look at back 2 years. So if your income dropped this year, but the previous year you had a very high income, you sold the property, then your premium will jump up. And then you can file a redetermination notice from to see if they can lower the premium ahead of time without you being stuck on this higher premium for a long time. So redetermination is always good to file, to ask, request. If they grant it to you, great. Tax implications of retirement savings by account type. Well, obviously 401ks, because they're tax deductible, they're also fully taxable when on withdrawals. So you can see here, pre-tax traditional IRA, they're all taxable on withdrawals. What does it mean? It means if you need $8,000 to live on, you need to take out of your IRA or 401k 10,000, for instance, if your tax bracket's at certain level, before you collect 8. Why? Because you want tax on that $10,000, dollar to dollar, ordinary income. Roth account contribution are not tax deductible. There is Y minus here. Investment grows tax-free, and then all your distributions are tax-free. Beautiful account. When you start putting money in your Roth and grow it, you can double your money in 10 years, and all of these growth in the account will be tax-free upon distributions. A lot of people not eligible for Roth account contribution directly, so there is a way to go around it through your Roth 401k or after-tax contribution, or making after-tax contribution into your 401k and then doing backdoor conversion. So there is a lot of opportunities if you plan purposefully, but Roth accounts, Roth 401ks are extremely valuable, and I encourage everybody to look into that if you can make certain contributions from various sources to be part of that tax-free groups. So you can see here, after tax 401k, non-deductible traditional IRAs, These are the money that you put in addition to your 401k. They're not going to be tax deductible, but you grow your money tax deferred. But when you take the money out of the account, whatever grew on the top of those funds would be taxable, but not your principal. So not a bad idea. Health savings accounts, fantastic vehicle. It works very similar to your IRAs. But in addition to, if you spend that money for qualified health expenses, all the growth in the account that you have can be taken out without any taxation. I encourage everybody to contribute if you're eligible, but in order to be eligible, you need to be in a higher deductible plan. If you're not in a higher deductible plan, you can put money away. Evaluate a Roth at different life stages. Roth conversion discussion is one of my biggest topics. Every time I review clients' financials, I'll talk about that. By sudden, we have a year where you didn't work full year, your income dropped, and we know income will go up and taxes will go up. This could be a good year for you, IRA to Roth conversion. Roth is extremely important for you when you start taking RMDs. Why? Because there is no requirements to take money out of Roth account. It can grow forever. Roth 401ks available to a lot of employees at the big companies. So we need to understand that the Roth account is extremely valuable, especially to those who are still working and have about 5 to 10 years before retirement. They can grow that money tax-free for a long time, forever, till they start taking money out. And when you do, there is no tax liability, which is excellent. Excellent tool to control your tax bracket, excellent tool to take money out for emergencies, an excellent opportunity for you to save additionally without tax withdrawals in the future. Aging your portfolio with your goals. Oh, I'm sorry, aligning your portfolio with your goals. Very important, very important. And I see very rarely it happens. Somehow that process has been missed. And a lot of, even if you go to Fidelity and Schwab and you can have accounts with them forever, this aligning process is missing. And it's very important. For instance, if you are in a situation where you have a pension benefits from IBM, and now I don't think they have pension, but maybe you worked there a long time ago and you collect pension benefits, and your pension benefits plus your social security covering 70% of your income needs. You have a little bit need from your portfolio, and you're lucky one that you have saved up another $800 million in your 401k. You're not risk averse. The question is, how do we invest this money? The answer is, if you're okay to put money mostly in stocks and grow this money over time, it's a much better option for you. Why? Because you're not relying on this portfolio very heavily. Portfolio can go up and down in value. The more stocks you have, the higher the value will be there over time. And you are not relying to take that money out of that account every time, every month. So the more guaranteed income stream you have, the more growth focus in general you can have in your other accounts. So you need to run your risk score to understand what is your risk number, how comfortable you're feeling with ups and downs. And you need to see it's in the dollar amounts. If you have $1 million and your account goes down $200,000, 20%, right? And it takes you a year and a half to 2 year recover. Is that a good plan? And you can make $1.2 million 3 years down the road. Or alternatively, you have $1 million portfolio and portfolio went down 100,000, but the market went down to 200. So you went down less, but when the market starts to recover, you will only make 1.1. So the risk reward needs to be addressed. Your time horizon needs to be addressed. Because if you need money from your portfolio on a monthly basis, you cannot put all your money in your all of your money in stocks. You need to have a cushion. You need to have money in savings and bonds and money market. Then when you need distributions and market is down, you're not taking money out of the portfolio stock portion. So you need to align what you need in the next 5 years at least from your portfolio, and that part most likely need to be kept safe. The rest of it can be invested. So aligning your risk preferences, aligning your goals, aligning your distribution needs, all of that will need to speak into your portfolio construction process. And if it does, you will be having a great time as an investor because you would know what you can and cannot afford to experience volatility. I don't like to call it losses because losses only occur when we're not mindful about the process. Loss means I want to buy the stock, I love the stock, you bought the stock, put a lot of money in it, and a year from now that company went bankrupt. There is no recourse for you to get your money back. So that's not what we're talking about. This is not the investment we want to do. We want to put money in diversified portfolio of US large companies. We want to track down the performance. We want to make sure the risk level is affordable and comfortable to you. And only then we can call it completed alignment of your goals with your portfolio. So the process takes 2 to 3 meetings to complete, and it gives you full understanding why you invest in this way and what changes you need to make, if any at all. So you can see preservation of principal, one of the options for certain money. Increasing wealth means putting money in stocks and then spending down the principal. We don't want to be in this light blue color. We want to be at least in the gray or green. So when I run financial plan, I'm trying my best to get you this outcome. And that would be the goal for everybody here on the call. All right. A goals-based wealth management is basically, we just talked about it. Remember, we said a bucket strategy. That's exactly a bucket strategy. Cash equivalent needs to be kept for short-term goals, medium-term goals, 5 to 10 years. You need to keep a little bit in stocks, maybe 50% in stocks or 60%, and the rest in bonds. Bonds are not as volatile, though they don't make as much money, especially in the last couple of years. Long-term goals that our longevity bucket, 15 years plus, can be mostly in stocks. That will give you a chance of your portfolio never outlive your money. The more money you have in stocks, it will give you a chance to stretch that money longer. All right, so a couple more slides and we'll start taking questions because I know we're almost there. It's almost 8 o'clock. Impact of being out of the market is more about being disciplined. People like to jump in and out of the market. That does not work. People tried many times. I tried myself just to see the results. It does not work. If you miss a couple of good years and a couple of good days in the market, your overall portfolio performance can go down a lot. All right. So now I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for being a very good listeners. And I will let Lisa to read the questions so I can do that.
Thank you, Larysa. Let's see. If anybody has questions, please enter them in the chat box. Okay, Jane has a lot of questions. She is wondering what some strategies might be for early retirement.
Early retirement, great question. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you close the gap between your early retirement date, let's say at 60 years old or 58, and the time when you get on Medicare and the time when you get on Social Security, which could be 66 or 67. You need to have enough resources for that. I do have clients who are early retired from tech companies. We created a process where we take a bucket of money and we use that till you start to receive Social Security. Once you start receiving Social Security, we'll reduce the amount of money from that bucket, and then we'll start taking money from a retirement 401ks. So you need to have enough resources to get you through this gap between your early retirement age and when the Social Security will be available, which will supplement your portfolio. But if your portfolio is very small size and you're early retired, you might have to draw from your retirement assets too early and jeopardizing depleting your budget sooner. So you have to align your resources and what accounts you will be using till you start to get influx of Social Security benefits.
Okay, interesting. Another question from Gigi is, I'm not quite sure if I understand this. It says, please repeat the team members. There's some names of people.
I see. Please repeat the team members. Let me see. Was it one of the slides?
Gigi, if you want to elaborate on that question, at the
Yeah,
beginning
I'm
of the
looking
talk.
through the slides. I think we talked about something, but maybe if you can elaborate, it will help.
And maybe while you're looking for that, Larissa, another question is, what are some examples of tax advantaged investments?
Annuities are good. I see. Advantage investments, annuity is a good idea when someone is under 59 and a half. What are some strategies for planning to hit American banks? Okay. So, examples tax advantage investments. Annuities generally build on idea of guaranteed income stream. They are not tax advantaged, they are tax deferred, meaning when you earn money in annuity and you don't take money out, you're not paying taxes. But once you start taking money out, you need to pay tax on it. And it is ordinary income. If in your 401k you grow your money and you start taking money out, that's ordinary income. That's the same concept applies to your annuities. Tax advantage vehicles, I like municipal bonds as one of the option. There is not too many options available, but mostly when you invest the money and instead of having ordinary dividends, you have qualified dividends, your maximum tax rate on that investment is only 15%. So having qualified dividends, municipal bonds, tax-free investments through uh, uh, dividend strategies, and also having some savings. So when you take money out, you leave in the stocks grow and you don't touch them, you don't distribute them, you don't get capital gains, but you're living off the combination of different investment sources. That creates a tax advantage for you right then. Annuities just tax deferred, they're more vehicle for income. Um, they are tax deferred, but they're not completely tax free. The Roth account is one of the greatest tax advantage strategy. Before 59 and a half, you do have access to your IRA without without penalty. You have to pay tax, but without penalty. If you have, there is a rule, I think it's called 72T, when you have to take a periodic payments for a number of years, at least 5 years. Then they allow it till age of 59 and a half. That allows you to avoid the penalty, but the tax you still have to pay.
So, as far as the team members, it was a financial advisor, tax person.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Great point. So when you think about your finances and who you to go to, aligned, but first of all, your tax person is needs to be somebody that you can approach and you can understand what they are advising you. You need to do review with these people. These people need to do not just tax filing, they need to also do tax planning, meaning how do we mitigate the tax? And that person needs to be in line with your financial advisor, financial planner, because when your financial planner suggests something, you need to reiterate or they need to reiterate it to your tax person, so they need to be connected. So having a team approach is extremely valuable because you get so much more value out of this relationship. So financial advisor, tax person, a state attorney would be nice if you have a state attorney with who your financial advisor is acquainted, at least via email. So if something going on with your family, you want to make a change, your financial advisor can help you with that by talking to your state attorney as a professional to professional. Usually the realtors, if a good realtor is around and you are actively involved in real estate, it's good to have a good realtor as a team member. And the last person that would be, not all this happens, but I always put your kids as a part of the team member. So if you have an adult children and they're living far away, we need to have them on team to know what's going on. Not in details, but let's say we have something we've been trying to achieve, then we can let them know that what we're working on. They can also be your advocates. They can also be a sounding board for you. So I like to have kids on your team as well. But as far as professionals goes, your CPA, financial advisor, estate attorney, realtor. That would be your kind of major for people that covers your hard asset, real estate, liquid assets, which is investments, your financial advisor, and your taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There's some more questions. Let's see. Any special tax advice for those who will mostly depend on pensions and deferred compensation, taxed as income?
Can you repeat it again? I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's really the
Any
questions.
Yeah, any special advice for those who will depend mostly on pensions and
Pension
deferred compensation?
deferred comp. Oh, great question. So first of all, pension benefits are extremely valuable. Only, I believe, 25% of the entire US population is eligible for pension benefits. Usually those are government workers, healthcare professionals at certain institutions. So it's very few people. So the pension benefits carry a huge value to an individual. So, and usually company give you choices how to take it. You can take it life only payment, you can take it as life and survivor, your spouse, you can take it you and beneficiaries. So you need to evaluate that. You need to evaluate the present value of all of these payments today if you take it this way versus this way. Also age. I've done a planning for a client who worked for UPS and other organization. Both of them carry pension benefits. So we had to go back and forth, deciding when to take the pension based on the tax situation, based on their, do we let it grow over time because the client retired early. So pension benefits collection is extremely an important process, and you need to know when to collect it and how to collect it. So people who own pension benefits and deferred comp. So deferred compensation, for those who are not familiar, is you decide that you don't want to take your bonus as the payment current year, you deferred your bonus. And then once you retire, your company will start making your payout. And you chose for your deferred compensation bonus to get paid out 5 years, not a lump sum upon retirement, which should be your case because we don't want to get the entire lump sum into your pocket, which means you pay a ton of tax. So your deferred comp ideally paid out of 5 years or 10 years. But let's say it's paid out of 5 years after your retirement. Your deferred compensation becomes part of your overall taxable income. It's like an earned income, right? And then you need to see how do you stagger your deferred comp, right? Maybe you deferred one bonus in 1 year, another bonus in another year. So how do you stagger your income in the first 5 years of retirement when majority of those bonuses will be paid out? And what your taxable income would look like, right? If you have a huge deferred comp coming your way in the next 3 years after retirement, maybe you can wait on pension distributions because pension will grow 7.5, 8% a year. Example, right? If your pension benefits grow 7, 8% a year, and your social security income is also coming in 67, maybe we can first take out deferred comp, pay taxes on that, defer your pension benefits so they grow nicely, and then start collecting your pension benefits if you have longevity, at least till 83. So there is a lot of considerations I just throw out at you, but what I'm trying you to understand is let's figure out how much deferred comp you're getting paid. Let's figure out what the pension benefits look like, the best way to collect them, and let's see how much income you would need to live on the next 5 years in retirement and decide when do we take pension, when do we take deferred comp, when do we start taking social security. That will be your overall income plus tax planning. So a lot of fun planning to do if you have this kind of options.
Okay. Let's see what else. Yeah, I don't. Oh, any advice for a surviving spouse when a spouse passes away or preparing for a passing?
Any advice of when after spouse passed away
Yeah, for the surviving spouse.
or survivor spouse, right?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, and then you will need to really gather your strengths because it's a big transition. It's probably one of the biggest transition ever be in anybody's life. And I suggest that you surround yourself by people who love you and care, right? Because at that time you're vulnerable, and we don't want you to make decisions that it's not to your best for you. So, involve your children into helping you making decisions if you've never been involved making decisions. If you're comfortable and you're already recovered and you feel like you have a clear mind and the strength to make decisions, Start talking to your financial professionals about it, because what you do need to find out pretty quickly, if you haven't yet, what your financial situation look like. Do you need to apply for Social Security survivor benefits? Do you need to start taking required minimum distributions out of your spouse IRAs? Do you need to relocate? Can you afford to stay in the house? Is the house a burden or it's okay to stay in? So you need to answer all of these questions. And the best person to talk to would be A, your children, and B, your financial advisor, somebody trusted, somebody who you feel comfortable to discuss, somebody you can go to and bounce ideas off. I think it's very important, because once you are on your own, not only you're isolated emotionally, but you're also isolated financially. So you need to kind of break that and go into a place where you know what's going on, what, how money will take care of you, and what you need to be safe and secure. So my advice is start evaluating your situation soon after, when you're capable of doing so, and help from your friends, family, and professional person you trust.
Okay, thank you, Larissa.